Welcome to episode 29 of the Serial Chillers podcast. I am your host, Jesse, and thank you all for listening. Today, we have producer Greg with us across the internet as always, and two new guests in studio, both JP and Ro, good friends of mine. JP is a co-worker as well. Good people, and I'm very happy to have them on this episode. Today's serial killer is Gary Evans, who is slightly non-traditional in his ways, but the outcome is the same, and people are going to die. In addition to my story, much less a side story and more a co-story, Ro brought the well-researched story of a goddamn monster, Joseph Fritzl. Other than that, please sit back, relax, and enjoy episode 29 of the Serial Chillers podcast. All right, if you guys are ready, producer
ready.
Greg is ready. All right, everybody, welcome to episode 29 of the Greg Interrupts Me podcast. This is 29 of 1 million. Today, I am here in studio with two new guests, and as always, across the internet, producer Greg. How goes it, producer Greg?
I don't want to say anything now. I don't want to interrupt you.
What? I'm going to interrupt you with the theme song that my fat finger missed the button for the first time. Hey, Greg, how's it going?
So we're firing on all cylinders today. That's how it's going.
Exactly it. Except for this is a one-cylinder vehicle. And to my left, I have coworker friend JP. Hey, JP.
Oh, hey.
The dulcet tones of JP. And sitting across from me, JP's lovely fiance and also a good friend of mine, Ro, the rotographer, Rosemarie. Hey, welcome.
Hi, how's it going? Serial killer.
Was that a good introduction?
Good. Actually, I teared up a little bit because you said a good friend.
Dang. Well, keep it that way, all right? All right, so welcome. Do you guys want to throw anything out at the top? Any social media? Any, I don't know, like photography businesses? I don't know.
Well, JP has this wonderful dancing entertainment business that he has going on. So
that's a word of mouth only.
Word of mouth if you're in Fresno, California.
Okay,
he
that's
can
a
be
handshake
reached
deal.
at. Just kidding.
Good old fashioned.
No, if you want to follow us, I guess, JP Gentry Industries on Instagram or at Rotography. Yeah, you can find us there.
Yeah, find them there.
Find us.
And I'll post up links to that so people will track you down. There's so many people on our Instagram. Our Instagram now has 280 followers. So you guys fucking better be ready for the wave that is coming.
Yeah, but I'm like 6 of them.
We've started a lot of Instagrams. We're trying to do the whole Russia thing. So what is the show like, you ask? Each week, I sit down with old friends, new friends, good friends, and bad friends to tell the story of an infamous serial killer. Throughout the show, you guys will chime in on my story, and if you have stories of your own, please throw those in. I hope they are true crime, dark, creepy, unsolved, or otherwise mysterious. Ooh. Lastly, if you have questions about any of the questions, make sure to ask questions because I cannot answer questions about questions unless you ask questions. Any questions?
Wow, all in one take.
Yeah.
That was very good.
I don't know if you noticed, I didn't look down either.
Very professional
stuff. What can I say?
Yeah.
Well, then welcome to and let's play the Serial Chillers podcast. Yes, today's serial killer. Tell me, have you guys heard of Gary Evans?
No.
Gary Evans, very unknown in my opinion, very untraditional style serial killer. Serial killer nonetheless. We're going to get into that story today. And as always, question number 1, in what year was Gary Evans born? The closest to the answer is going to get 250 points.
Oh, I thought you were going to say $150.
No, there's no money here. I'm sorry. I wish.
There's nothing to be won from this show.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Have you ever seen Whose Line Is It Anyway?
Yeah.
Very like that in the way the points work. JP really wants a win, so I don't know.
All right, here we go. We write the answer on the paper.
Yep,
here.
you write it there, and you can once you've both got it, you let me know, and I'll let you know how wrong you were.
Do we have to identify whether it's BCE or after Christ?
I promise that it is going to be in the Common Era.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Good information.
You know, after 0. Got a small amount of history for you to delve into there.
All right,
Can
here's my
you-
answer.
Can you say the question in a sentence, please?
Yes. In what year is Gary Evans born?
All right, here's my answer.
All right, JP's
country of origin.
shooting for the stars with this one. JP said he wanted to win. I'm not sure that he does. He guessed 1106. Roe guesses 1971. And Gary Evans was born October 7th, 1954.
Oh,
Was I
man.
close?
All right, so you were only about 800 years off.
I'll do better on the next question.
Okay. So JP, swing and a miss. Roe's going to get 250 on that one and take the first ever question in her first ever question on the Serial Chillers podcast. Oh, shit.
Just do it!
So, again, October 7th, 1954, Gary Evans was born to Flora May and Roy Evans in Troy, New York. He had one half-sister named Robbie, who he would be very close with throughout life. At the age of 3, Flora May, his mother, had already made multiple suicide attempts in front of her children. She was mentally unfit to not only be raising children, but to really be unsupervised herself. In one attempt, his mother's gun misfired, and on that attempt, his father took the gun and shot her in the shoulder, essentially to show her, like, is this really what you want?
Oh, shit.
All in front of the kids. It says that it nearly blew her shoulder entirely off. As a child, he suffered beatings at the hands of both parents and would later claim that he was raped by his father when he was 8 years old. So, off to a good start, I guess.
I think I'm speechless.
Right. So,
Wow.
And after that, he was perfectly fine for the rest of his life. The end. No. At the age of 8 in 1962, he starts to steal. He becomes very klepto. He brings home a stolen ring that he stole from a friend's mom that was worth over $1,000. We're talking $1962,000 ring too. He stole things like comic books and candy from the store and soda, and he would always just come home and be stealing, and it was kind of his thing, and that's how I think that was his coping mechanisms. It seems at 8. I'm not sure. I'm not a psychologist. I can't break it down, but I can only assume that it's just a way to escape home a little. So at the age of 13 in 1968, his sister gets married, but she is divorced quickly because her husband is very abusive. After her husband leaves, Gary comes to stay with her for a while and goes to Cohoes, New York. In 1968, at the age of 14, Flora May, their mother, divorced her husband Roy, and moved to Cohoes, New York with Robbie and Gary. They would later get remarried and divorced once more. So a pretty toxic relationship. Yeah. They were divorced 3 times, married twice. Good for them. Good for them. Yes. So in summer of 1970, at 15 years old, Gary commits his first crime that he's caught for, and he commits petty larceny by robbing someone's home. He is caught and spends 90 days in jail. 15 years old. Starting off strong. Why not?
If you can.
Yes, exactly. So at the age of 16 in 1970, Flora May moves to Potterville, New York. She married a 3rd time and divorced this man shortly after the man was found to have also been an abusive alcoholic. So the family tends to have a track record, and they seem to also like similar men from the lady's point of view. She then moved to Astoria, Queens after the divorce. She was married to another man named Jim, and they were divorced. Why? He was an abusive drunk. This, her 4th marriage,
Shocker.
was also broken this very same year. She also developed pleurisy around this time, which is an inflammation of the pleurae, which impairs your lubricating function and causes pain when breathing.
Ouch.
It is caused by pneumonia or other diseases of the chest or abdomen. Word up to WebMD. Thank you. Holler for that definition.
Shout out to WebMD. Is great.
I was just going to leave it as pleurisy and be like, I don't know. Fucking you tell me what it is, JP. You know a bunch of stuff.
It's cottonmouth. I don't know.
What? So in 1971, at the age of 17, Flora May, his mother, begins to carry on a lesbian relationship and completely gives up on men. And Gary at this time...
We can't really blame her, right? I mean...
at this point...
Pretty rough so far.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
Yeah,
And she
her
needs...
husband shot her in the shoulder.
Yeah, but she stayed with him for like 8 years after that. And then
For the
divorced him.
kids.
And they got back together. And then divorced him again. I don't... Look, again, I get kind of some shit on the show for... not understanding mental illnesses and people, maybe I victim blame a little bit accidentally. I'm laughing to lighten the load, not to laugh at people. But, you're right. Yes, who can blame her? It has been she's had some time. It's time to try something new.
On to the women.
Right. So at this point, she's focusing on her relationship while 17-year-old Gary is just like sleeping wherever he can. He's stealing food. He's like sleeping on the bus. He's sleeping at the park. He has nowhere to go. He has nowhere to call home. He's, for all intents and purposes, a street person at 17. Rat. Yes. Very Aladdin in his ways. Only not so attractive.
And not
He's
a
like
monkey.
Cricket.
Yes.
He's like Rickety Cricket.
He is very similar to Rickety Cricket, it does appear. So, question number 2.
Oh, man, that was a lot of info. All right.
Well, here's the great part. Is none of the questions have anything to do with what you've heard. They're only going to have to do with what you're about to hear. That's what's so great.
That's so good because I just started paying attention.
Perfect. Question number 2. Gary will have a life filled with crime. This is a 2-part question, guys.
Okay, I'm ready for it.
From 1971 to 1998, he will be arrested how many times? The closest to the answer is going to get 250 points. This is part 1.
1998.
So that is 27 years of committing crimes. 71 to 98. How many times will he be arrested during this period?
Is there Price is Right rules, or is it just
there are only Price is Right rules if you guys split the difference on the correct answer.
Oh, interesting. All right then.
These are some great rules.
Thank you. I make
would've
them up
just
as
said,
I go.
No.
Cool. And what do you got there, Ro?
I got 36.
Ro says 36. JP says 12. The answer is 22. JP is going to get the points.
All right.
Over the 27 years, Gary is arrested 22 times.
That's amazing.
Yes. Part 2 of this 2-part question.
Oh.
Of those 22 arrests, how many felony charges will he have in these same years? I've got multiple choice for you.
Ooh.
Or you can stab at it for 1,000 points.
Wait, how many points does he get? Because he got 1 right.
Well, he's got the 250 for that. That one's, okay. We're calling it over. You guys are tied at 250 apiece.
All right. This is on.
All right, so we could stab at it.
You can stab at the number.
Or hear the multiple choice for less points.
Yes, and if you stab at it, you don't get to guess in the multiple choice.
You got to be right on if you stab.
You got to nail the number for a G bar.
I think I'd like to listen to the multiple choice.
All right, Ro, multiple choice as well?
Yeah, because I didn't listen to the question.
All right. The question is, how many felony charges will he have in the same years? He was arrested 22 times. How many felony charges?
Okay, so do I have to go with? You
can wait for the multiple choice, or you can just guess. If you're going for 1,000 points, just write it down and keep it there, and I'll read them to JP. And
all right, sounds good.
You got it written down.
If she's gonna stab, I'm stabbing.
Okay, don't. Oh, you're gonna.
I'm
JP's
stabbing.
gonna match the stab.
He can do better, right? And he does it, and he proves me wrong all the time.
All right, here we go.
Just trying to stab.
Double stabs. JP sticking with the same number as before. Ro.
I'm gonna go 17.
Oh, so close.
Mother of God.
So you guys are both going to miss points on this one because you did not wait for the multiple choice. He got 15 felony charges over these 2 years. You guys were both very close, 3 and 2 off. So sorry, nobody's going to take points on question number 3. I know you guys are just broken up about that.
Yeah, I am.
So it's a 250 to 250 tie, and we've got 9 questions left in this motherfucker.
Oh, sweet. That's good. I was hoping it wasn't over.
I felt like I needed to hear a bum, 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 bum.
So, in the mid-1970s, we're looking at a 20-year-old Gary Evans. He reunites with childhood acquaintances Tim Reisdorf and Michael Falco.
Oh, Reisdorf.
You know the Reisdorfs, huh?
No.
Oh. All 3 men ended up sharing an apartment together only a few blocks from Gary's childhood home in Troy. Gary lived in a shed behind the apartment in a wooded area before he actually moved in. Kind of a success story, right? Lived in the shed, got the apartment. Moving on up.
Moving on up
To the apartment.
to the apartment.
So Gary, Tim, and Michael all get an apartment together.
Threesome.
Yes, that's exactly what they called it. I think they got that printed on some T-shirts. They essentially are going to use it as a place of operations as well as the place they live. A few years later, in 1977, Gary meets Deidre Fuller and has a 13-year relationship with her on and off. So this is kind of his long-term...
Longer than his mom's.
Right. Yes, that might be true. Off and on sounds very Gary Evans, let's say. He met her when he went to rob some stores up north.
Oh,
How
lucky.
romantic. Mommy, how did you meet Daddy? Well, he was robbing the liquor store that I was working at, and I saw through the ski mask that his eyes were just so beautiful and hazel, and I couldn't help but ask.
Oh, beautiful.
What brought you here?
At least it wasn't Tinder.
Yes.
That's true. Could be worse.
So, he meets her robbing some stores. They have an on again, off again kind of open relationship. One day he got mad at her because she did not tell him that she was dating someone else. He was okay with it, but he wanted to know that there was someone else. It was different when she was hiding it from him, and he took offense of it. Additionally, Gary was a very staunch racist. And this new boyfriend was an African-American gentleman. Oh. Gary did not take kindly to this one bit. So, Gary, all in all, piece of shit pretty much throughout. He demanded that she give back everything he had ever given her.
Oh, man.
Or else he would have to hurt her.
So I'm going to find these Band-Aids that
Yeah, these
I threw away
everything that
10
you've given
weeks
me
ago.
over these last 13
You remember those Doritos?
years.
I want them back.
Shit them out. Give me the fucking Doritos back. So, and she claims that up until this point, Gary had been nothing but a sweetheart. She had never seen any side of Gary other than just like a great boyfriend. Even though it was an open, on again, off again relationship, it was never toxic. They were on again, off again because they had each other when they had no one else, and that was the thing that they liked about that. And so she just knew this sweet Gary Evans, and all of a sudden she's got this guy saying, "Hey, everything over the last fucking 13 years I gave you, give it back." So, and I don't think he said it as calmly as I just did there as well. Let's see. In January of 1977, at 22 years old, his mother, Flora May, finally decides to settle down and moves to upstate New York with her lesbian lover. So she's figured it out. I mean, I'm actually happy for it. It sounds like, what's kind of cool about this is you don't hear much from her until her death. Which to me, no news is good news with Flora May Evans, because it's only been bad things up to this point. So it sounds like when she moves to upstate New York with her new partner, everything went good for her. And I like to think that until she found out her son was a murderer, that maybe she got it turned around. There's got to be a silver lining in here somewhere, right?
She had a couple good years in the middle.
Yeah. She's, sometimes you figure it out. And then you realize you raised a serial killer. So on January 13th, 1977, Gary was caught in the act of robbing a home in Lake Placid, New York, and was sentenced to 4 years in state prison for third-degree larceny. He was held at Clinton Correctional Facility in Dannemora, New York. So, from here on out, most of our story is going to take place in prison.
Oh, man.
Gary fucking loves prison. Like a lot. Like there's a lot of prison love from this man. So, man, son of a bitch. Okay, so
different people thrive in different environments, and
yeah, I think
apparently prison is
it's Gary Evans.
Evans shit.
Yep.
Right.
So in July of 1977, Gary's father Roy lost his life to throat cancer at the age of 35.
Sucks.
Gary was serving his 4-year sentence at this time. He not only would miss the last days with his father, but would not be given the day pass to attend his father's funeral. Don't be a fuck up and go to prison if you want to go out and do things you'd like to do. That's, I think, really the long and short of it.
Hey, at least he has Flora May, right?
Yeah, for now. So in 1979, at the age of 25, midway through serving his sentence at Clinton Correctional Facility, Gary was moved to Great Meadow Correctional Facility in Washington County, New York. On March 21st of 1980, he was released from prison after serving 2 years of his 4-year sentence and moved back with Tim Reisdorf and Michael Falco. What does he do? Immediately started burglaries again. He committed burglaries with Falco and used their apartment for stolen items and for planning future burglaries. You got to have a heist apartment. I think that's really all there is to it. Greg knows. Heist apartments for life, right, boy?
World headquarters.
Yes.
Heist apartments are where it's at.
Yep. So he committed burglaries with Falco. They used their apartment as kind of headquarters. In spring of 1980, Gary was caught with a couple $100s in stolen items and was sent back to jail because he was still out on parole for not serving the remaining 2 years of his sentence. He was brought to Old Rensselaer County Jail in downtown Troy, New York. Question number 4.
Ooh.
A certain gang or group of people would help Gary escape prison.
Bulldogs.
What group? Is
ESF
it
Bulldogs.
A, the KKK, B, the Hells Angels, C, the Mafia, or D, the Aryan Brotherhood?
All right.
Ro has got it. JP is writing.
I've watched
You can
way
show
too
me.
much Lockup. Oh, yeah, I wrote all of that.
All right. JP's got his.
I probably spelled it wrong.
All right. We've got 2 answers for the Aryan Brotherhood, and my trick answer wins. It was the Hells Angels.
Oh, gosh, dang,
yes.
that was the other guys.
Guys. Yes.
Those other guys. Lockup, you proved me wrong.
Well, that's why I put the Aryan Brotherhood in there, because I knew it was mainly a prison group, and I like to be tricky.
That was good. That was a good
tricky,
option.
tricky.
Are they still?
Baby, walk around. Oh, sorry. We're just doing a podcast, and I have to pay for that music if I want to use it. So Gary Evans, when in prison, gets help from the Hells Angels in doing what? Escape prison. Who knew that the Hells Angels were so connected they can help you fucking escape prison?
And donate charitable.
Right. They're
funds.
huge here in Fresno. They're absolutely
They
huge.
do a lot of charity work.
Yes.
They're good people.
Yeah,
Mostly.
I think it's mostly a good group of people now.
It's a good ratio. I think it's like
There's
every 10 fundings
we
we'll
got a
take
good balance.
one. Yeah.
I
We'll
thought
break
they-
one
One
fucking
escape.
knee for every 20 bikes we buy.
I was hoping that one of the options would be a wooden horse.
Because they were in Troy.
I thought they were going to sneak him out in a
Dang.
wooden horse.
Well, if I were more clever, I would have thought of that. And
I probably would have answered that
guess it shows you the holes in my brain. So he escaped with some help from the Hells Angels, but was picked up 5 hours after he escaped, and he was brought back to jail. He was then placed in solitary
5
confinement.
hours.
5 hours, not very good. That's not a long time.
He made it around the block.
He was probably just wrought with anxiety and just paranoia, and he probably walked back himself. Just fuck it. It's not even worth it.
He made it to the Arby's.
You're right. Dang. He got a roast beef with cheddar and just headed back.
Once he got his order, he realized it wasn't going to work
Oh,
out.
man. Just let me eat the curly fries. So on September 11th, never forget, 1980, Gary's parole was revoked, and he was sentenced to a second time in 4 years to another 2 to 4 year bid at Clinton Correctional Facility. On October 21st, 1981, the following year, 27 years old, Gary spends his 27th birthday behind bars at the Clinton Correctional Facility. On March 19th, the next year, Gary was denied parole for the first time in his life. He claimed it was because, quote, he had to talk to a counselor about his antisocial behavior, end quote. Oh, so you mean they did their jobs and are not letting you out because you're fucked up? Whoa.
They asked me questions that were not beneficial to my release.
And then they didn't release me. What kind of crime is this?
Denied.
Crimes against humanity. And we're talking 35 years before the fucking Sweet Party game came out. So, December 12th, 1982, a few months before he was going to be let out on parole, the New York State Department of Corrections transferred him once more. He was moved about 400 miles west to Attica State Prison. Attica!
Sweet.
He was also known for Attica is like one of the worst where the worst criminals go in New York, apparently. It's the Arkham Asylum of New York. So he's moved 400 miles west. He's not allowed in Gin Pop when he gets there, so he's separated from other ones. Yes. Jim Horton, an investigator in the area who is close to Evans because of his many run-ins with the law, believes while he's at the facility, he begins to think of murder. So he's been in prison so long, he's seen so much violence. And you hear about this a lot. It's a lot of people think that guys grew up in the system and they got to see the violence that's in prison, and it's a nurture versus nature, situation where we don't know which it is. And some people say, like, these guys, they get put in this awful fucking system that isn't built for non-violent criminals. It's built for the worst of the worst people. And, some people are in there for selling a dime sack or whatever. And they come out, these hardened criminals. Not the case with Gary. He's not in there for selling a dime sack. He's a piece of fuck. But it maybe pushed him a little further than he ever thought he might go. So on December 29th, 1982, he's released from Attica State Prison and immediately starts burglarizing again. Oh. He did a few small jobs. Yeah, well, you got to fucking make some money, right, bro?
Get it done.
He did a few small jobs with Michael Falco in 82. On February 6th, 1983, Gary's mother, Flora May, finally dies. The NYPD notified the family that she fell on some ice getting into the door of her car and bumped her head on the bumper. She slipped on ice and hit her head on her car.
Where was her lesbian lover at?
She didn't catch her fast enough. I just don't.
Gosh.
You didn't wait
Damsel
for Flora May to get
distress.
in. Right? Where were you, Gary? More like
Jeez.
it. You're supposed to protect your mom, bro.
Too much Attica.
So it was. It was only 2 months before Flora May's 51st birthday. In spring of 1983 at 28, Gary was back in crime. But even still, with my fuck up earlier, Flora May does not live to see her son be a murderer. So there's still that.
I like how we're finding the tiniest of silver linings.
I'm having to. I got a lot of negative YouTube comments over the last week or so. I'm trying to make up for some shit here. On April 22nd, 1983, Gary was caught again on Easter Day. This time he was burglarizing a home. On May 10th, he was picked up yet again while he was out on bond for the previous charge. The crimes he committed this time were grand larceny and burglary. He was taken to Saratoga County Jail. So on April 22nd, he got arrested. He gets out on bond. And while out on bond, gets arrested burglarizing the home.
Gosh.
Right.
Yeah. What? God damn it. Like, go to Arby's and fill out an application.
No, I don't think that's the deal.
No. Just keep burglarizing. Well, shit. All right.
Just go steal your Arby's from someone who's out at Easter.
Gary Evans has it fucking figured out then. Jesus.
Nobody pays for Arby's in this family.
In 1984, at 29, he was moved to Warren County Jail. He was later moved back to the Saratoga County Jail. They move him around a lot. I don't know if that's common. And I didn't really see the significance other than the fact that they move him a lot. What that might be to him moving a lot. I don't know if it's a power move to not let him get too comfortable in one situation because
but out of all these criminals, it's like, hey, the guy who burglarizes.
That's true.
We gotta shapeshift him
That's
right
true.
now. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Maybe it was just a population thing, and he was the bottom of the rung, and they're like, just put him wherever the fuck. Who cares?
He had like hair all up on his neck and down his chest, and it's not like the prettiest sight.
He was unattractive, so he had to move. Hey, get that Gary guy out of here.
Yeah,
Gary's kind of bringing down. Before Gary got here, the prison was averaging like an 8.9, and we brought in Gary, and we're like a solid 8.4 now.
You guys got any room at Saratoga?
Yeah.
What's the deal?
Come on, I said you guys are at 9.9. What's it gonna do? Bring you down to a 9.7? Fuck, help us out here, Jesus. So. They moved him to Montgomery, and in March of 1984, Gary was back at Warren County. In March 31st of 84, Evans was set free, but was put on a conditional release program. This meant he had to be on his best behavior until the remainder of his sentence, 9 months, was over. Question number 5.
No larceny and no burglary.
True or false? Does Gary keep his nose clean for the next 9 months? Can he do it? You can give me a yes or no, true or false, whatever you want. It's for 250 points. It's a 50-50 shot. JP's got his answer in.
I think I spelled false wrong. I was.
Fallacy. She was under the pressure. She was under pressure. It's fine. It's fine. It's cool. Nobody on podcasts can see. This is an audio medium. I can edit. I'm not gonna. I can though.
People only know if you spell things wrong if you say that you spell things wrong.
I need to put myself under the bus before anybody else could. I'm sorry.
So, Roe, you are going to get 250 points.
Fuck yeah,
He committed
Oh,
burglaries as soon as he got out of jail.
I was just a little bit more insecure that I didn't know how to spell false that Roe was.
Well, here's the thing.
I was on the fence about true as it is.
Is that while he did not keep his nose clean, correct answer, Roe, 250. It's now 500 and 250 Roe. He did not get caught burglarizing over these 9 months. Now, by his admission, he was burglarizing nearly every day over these 9 months. But it just so happened to steer clear. So you're not completely wrong, just in the eyes of the serial killers. So he was living at this time, again, with Tim Reisdorf and Michael Falco. On September 16th, 1984 was Gary's release date, and he was set free from parole. So he made it through his 9 months. He's burglarizing the fuck out of this joint, but didn't get caught doing it, so he gets off parole, because what the fuck do they know? Right? Good job. Good for you, Gary. Kept your nose cleanish. So, January 10th, 1985, Gary's conditional release expired. So he is a fucking free man right now. Since Tim Reisdorf was not committing that many burglaries with Gary, Gary and Michael become main partners. In February of 85, Michael Falco and Gary Evans go to East Greenbrush, New York, in Falco's brown Plymouth Satellite. That must have been a beautiful car. They bring along 2 large duffel bags, a police scanner, a rope ladder, and some common burglary tools. It's very Boondock Saints of them.
Common.
Right? Bring your stupid rope.
Can I Google common burglary tools and then it'll give me a list from Osh? Is that?
It's a kit.
You're gonna need the dark web for that, but yeah, absolutely, it shouldn't be an issue.
Common burglary tools. A spatula.
One of those sweet pantyhose you can pull over your face.
It has a DIY how to make your own pantyhose mask.
Refrigerator magnets.
Yes.
All in super cute floral on Pinterest.
Dang. And they literally bring the kitchen sink just so they could have that one joke. You got everything but the... Oh, wait.
Everything's a Bugs Bunny cartoon.
Yes. And that's the way that I want to live my life. God damn it, JP, don't get in the way of it.
Oh.
So they have their common burglary tools, and the goal was to get some golden valuables from this antique store. They hopped on top of a portable toilet and got up on the roof. They entered through the store using the hatch on the roof, and they filled the 2 duffel bags with jewelry and valuables worth about... Question number 6. What was the amount that they were able to steal from this store? The closest to the answer is going to get 250 motherfucking points.
Suki.
Just as a reminder, it is row 500, JP 250. All right, Roe says $150. JP says $960. You guys underestimate Gary Evans because he takes away about $15,000
Fuck yeah, I do.
worth of golden antiques.
Of course I underestimate this guy. He's gotten in jail how many times? And at that, he's always been arrested for these crimes. Of course I'm not going to think he's going to get $15,000 worth of antiques from this store.
So we got a 500-point tie.
All right. He's playing the shotgun game. You just put a blast out and eventually one's going to come home.
Yeah.
It can't all be Arby's.
Fuck.
But only if it could, right? So we're going to take a break right now. We're going to come back as Roe's got a story for us. We're going to listen to that crazy fucked up shit.
This is a lullaby.
Yeah, so take a break right now, and everybody come back, or I'll kill you.
Woo!
All right, welcome everybody. We are back. If you're here, that means I don't have to kill you, which is great because I'm feeling especially lazy tonight. So, back with JP, Roe, and of course, producer Greg. We are going to get a story, which it's been a little while since somebody's brought a story, no? I think 4 or 5 episodes even.
Yeah, but I'm working on one. I am working on one.
Greg's got something coming down the pipes. So for now, Roe brought us a story. What's great about this story is it too is very fucked up.
It's so bad.
So please, Roe, without further ado, take it away.
Is this mic on? Check 1, check 2. All right. All right. So this guy right here, Joseph Fritzl, and I like to say the Fritzl. He was from Austria. Little sad.
You think he knew Arnold?
You know, probably not. Because Arnold probably shouldn't be hanging out with guys that rape their daughters.
So maybe he knew Hitler then.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. I think that sounds a little bit more government, you know, like fascist pig kind of deal, kind of works out together. But anyways, Austria, and this guy was known as a respected businessman, father, and husband. And he was a total respected businessman, father, and husband. So what had happened was he decided to hold his daughter captive in a cell underneath their home for 24 years. So
it's not really cool, man.
He was not the deal. He raped her 3,000 times or over 3,000 times. She birthed 7 children from him in a cell with rats infested in the area. Like, he built this cell, like enclosed the cell underneath his home and kept her there.
This is like his daughter.
Yeah. So
she's born and he's like, and you will be my sex slave.
And you know what? I don't think it turned out like that. So what had happened was, you know, she started getting into being a teenager, and teenagers that like smoke cigarettes and hang out and go to parties and stuff.
She's a fucking rebel, huh?
Yeah, a little bit, but not like overbearing to where she was like throwing dishes at her parents or anything like that. But more so, it was this I can't control my daughter anymore vibe. Like, this was my little girl. And he didn't start touching her until like, I hate to say it like that, but he didn't start touching her until she was a teenager, and until he actually held her captive. Like, that's when he got the most control from her.
I don't like it. I don't like it. You just stop now.
I know. So just a little bit about his upbringing. His dad used to beat his mom, so a little bit of that happened. Dad ran out of the house when he was 4 years old. He was an only child. He grew up during the Nazi era, World War II. So talking about that Hitler business, you know.
I was totally right.
Totally.
So he had grown up in that very disciplined and strict like lifestyle, was like bred into his DNA, I'd like to say. And
he was able to march very uniformly.
Most likely. He probably knew how to do a good iron on his pants or what have you. But it was normal to be taught that way, the way of Hitler. You know what I mean? Like, back then, like, we weren't living in Austria or Germany or anything like that. So it was bred or instilled in them. So he was intelligent. He was a loner. He was poor. He had all these little things, but he also was known to be a pleasant friend from some of his friends that he had known since he was 2 years old. It's
the classic, like, news interviews the neighbor, and they're like, I had no idea.
His lawn was so nice.
Right.
Oh, man.
He had drought-tolerant lawn.
Yeah, drought-tolerant landscape. So good.
He compared himself to a husband of his mother. Like, when he was growing up, like I said, it was just him. So it was very hard for his mom to bring other mates, if you will. Mates? Like, man mates?
Is that what was Joseph not accepting of that, or did she just not want to put him through that?
He was not too accepting. Like, he didn't think that they treated his mom very well, even though it wasn't like horrific or like there weren't any beatings that I'm aware of that happened within that whole span. But he really took on that husband role. Like, I'm going to take care of you, Mom. I'm going to do all these things, but kiss you and touch you. So
unless you want.
So that happened. He never saw himself as a man who would molest children, or at least that's what he was told to say.
Well, that's nice.
You know, I mean, it was only until later in his life when he had put her underneath the cell, like I said, like she was a teenager, she was a little rambunctious, a little rebellious.
It's when he could finally see that in himself.
Yeah, maybe I could. Yeah, that. He knew that his daughter didn't want the things that he did, like, which was to be uniform, like to be in this like whole persona of, you know, you need to live the way a woman needs to live in Austria at this time. And
she didn't live up to his mother.
She's trying to break the status quo.
You're such a fucking psychologist.
There were massa issues.
Yeah, massa. And he may or may not have fantasized about being with his mother, but
dang, I'm just nailing it.
I know
Fritzl.
he never really kind of, you know, nothing was really quite said about that.
Couldn't pull the trigger.
Could have, you know, just suppressed those urges. But with his first wife, he had many affairs as well. So she was not a lot like his mother. She was shy and weak, and she didn't stand out. Fritzl was her first boyfriend. And what up?
We're taking selfies in the studio.
That's how we roll now. You know, it's a selfie game. One for all.
Can you imagine really quickly being with a guy and you're like, man, I can just tell something's wrong, Joseph. What is it? And he's like, you know what? Fine. You are nothing like my mother. Like that's why he just can't do. I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of creepy, but yet, I mean, do we not like expect something out of the other significant other to be somewhat like the person we care unconditionally about? Like,
for sure, qualities I think are a good thing to have. Being exactly like them.
Maybe not.
I've seen American Psycho, or Psycho. It's
not tight.
Yeah, okay.
Well, yeah. So she totally didn't stand out. It was her first boyfriend, Fritzl, made a good impression on her family. You know, super cunning, charming, all that good stuff. Her name was Rosemary, unfortunately, like my name.
It's a good name, though. Don't let her sully that for you.
Oh, yeah. That's why I'm Ro now. So because of her.
The Fritzl story.
Fritzl.
And at the age of 17 years old, she married him. And they lived with Rosemary's parents and would go out at night. Or he would actually go out at night and look through people's windows like a peeping Tom.
Little peeping Tom action.
Kind of like how I did when I was walking up here. I was like,
sweet.
give me
That's
your
true.
phone. I want to take a picture of him. He's like in here all super cute. And he was like, it's a little creepy. Do that with your own phone.
No, she took my phone anyway.
I did take his
The
phone.
studio, when you walk up to the very important looking studio building I'm in, it's
The
a
world
house.
headquarters.
It's a house.
It's the Serial Chillers.
It has a very large window that the curtains are normally closed, but I thought, I'll prop them open. I'll be able to see anybody that walks up. I'm very keen and aware of my surroundings. And when they came in, she's like, I was watching you in the window. You're so cute. And I never saw him out there. So
Yeah. So this guy totally did Fritzl.
he pulled a row, huh?
He pulled a row. In 1967, he pulled a row. And but he used to go running around on his bicycle. So like I always think of those monkeys on the Wizard of Oz, like
Dang.
you know, just
so
like
sinister.
yeah. That's my sinister
Yeah,
vibe right there.
I
I
feel
hope you
it.
can imagine it.
I very well that melody. I honestly I couldn't until you did the song, and then I was like, I see it. It all came to me.
I wasn't creeped out tonight until just now.
Well, don't let me put on Wizard of Oz
Now I'm
tonight,
creeped
baby.
out.
Oh, it's gonna happen.
No Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, well, okay. So let me jump back into this then. We'll stop thinking of my weird little things that I do. He raped a local woman in 1967.
So it begins.
Good job, Fritzl.
Is it an applause because he's supporting local?
Well,
Is that...
I just don't know how he was getting around on his little bicycle. You know, like, did he have like some gadgets on him? You know, normally people put things in the back of their trunks to like get themselves prepared.
Yeah, where did he keep his common burglary tools?
I know. Where
right.
did he put his
Right,
like
of course.
hosiery, right? Like, and put it over his head? Did he like wear it while he was riding his bike? Anyway,
That's a great image. He's riding around with the tune on a tiny bicycle
Dun,
with
dun,
the
dun,
tune
dun,
playing in
dun,
the
dun,
back.
dun,
And the
pantyhose.
The top of the
over his
pantyhose
head.
are flopping in the wind.
I mean, he didn't know that DIY on Pinterest, how to like prepare himself for that.
Well, it was so much before Pinterest. Had there only been Pinterest around.
So, unfortunately, he raped a girl in her home. He was arrested and convicted for an 18-month sentence. Another woman was attacked by...
Fritzl.
On her way
Good
home.
teamwork.
On her way home from work, attempted to try and rape her. He couldn't get her on the ground. The lady remembered him saying, "I'm going to get you one day." Can someone say that for me in a Fritzl voice? I'm going to
Do you want it to be consistent with the one I used earlier, which is just
Yes.
like my Albert
that's
Einstein
gonna be-
impression?
It's going to be perfect.
Okay. I'm going to get you one day. I am Joseph Fritzl.
He probably couldn't see because of his common burglary pantyhose over his head while
That
he was
weren't
on his
DIY'd.
bicycle.
Yeah, they weren't DIY'd on Pinterest, so he didn't know how to do that. And again, it was on his bicycle.
Naturally.
So get that picture in your head, you guys. This poor lady kept having nightmares about this guy. I'm sure it was the bicycle that she had the nightmares of. You know,
The tune.
The tune.
Dubbed the bicycle bandit, Joseph Fritzl would go around accosting local Austrian women.
Or promising to when he was unable to.
Right.
But the sad news is, you guys, in 1968, when he was released after that 18-month prison sentence, Rosemary forgave him.
Oh,
That is very sad news.
Wah, wah, wah. She was blinded by love. Jesus. She was blinded. He dominated her. He had a lot of control over her. So I'm sure he said, "Oh, baby, it's okay. I love you.
I'll be better
I'm
next
sorry.
time."
Oh, man.
I won't do another girl or another 2 girls or try and do another 2 and 3 girls." That's my Joseph Fritzl voice.
That's pretty good. I like yours better.
Your Joseph Fritzl is so smooth and charming.
Yeah.
Well, he was a very charming guy from what I read.
He looks scary but charming. Like he
Yeah,
looks
those
like an
eyebrows.
intellectual man. He's very Peter Gallagher eyebrows.
Oh, very Peter Gallagher, like with a little bit of cucarachas going on, like
With
to
a little
kinda just spurt
a little
out.
less landscaping.
Yeah, there you go.
Some wild Peter Gallagher caterpillars.
Yeah. Oh man.
Peter Gallagher's unkempt cousin.
But anyways, so Fritzl's wife took him back, and all of a sudden they looked like they were a happy couple again. All their friends were talking about how she always looked happy. He gave her a kitchen to cook in, but never really gave her anything else. That was it. It was like, hey,
That was
you got
his
this
style,
cool
though,
kitchen.
right?
Why don't you cook in there?
But never gave her a spatula
Yeah.
or pots and pans.
Kept the
No.
spatula for his
Just
common
the kitchen.
burglary
You got to
tools.
figure it
Right.
out. Daughters, this is where the daughters get kicked in. Daughters all used to work in there with her. So that was like a very common little area where the family would congregate.
The kitchen.
The kitchen.
Okay.
So, sister was locked up in the house, constantly living in fear. So it wasn't in the cell, though. It was more, he had caught the daughter. Her name is Elizabeth. He had caught her doing something, and he like locked her up in the house. And so she constantly kind of lived in this little fear, and she was just treated out of the sisters, and I can't remember how many sisters, and I'm sure there were 7 children.
Oh, jeez.
And she was the one that was always attacked. Like, she was the one who would always get reamed for stuff. She was always the bad one. She needed to be the example,
And
but
she's
she
the
wasn't
one that
the
lived
oldest.
in a cage.
And she was the one who lived in the cell. So there were 7 children, and apparently it seemed like a tight unit. They used to vacation, and apparently were a successful he was a successful businessman with his best friend, and he always wanted to be a good father and husband. Dun, dun, dun.
Or so he says.
Pun intended.
Or maybe he thought he was being one.
Maybe.
I'm being
I
serious.
mean, he wanted to date his mom, maybe?
Yeah, there's clearly something psychologically malfunctioning, I think.
Yeah, it was a little crazy. But we'll start talking about Elizabeth. This is the one that kind of got
the daughter.
Got stuck. Despite all my rage, I am still just a okay.
Right, no more. We gotta pay for that.
Sorry, FCC. Okay, so Elizabeth, born in 1966, she was the fourth child of 7. So what does that make her? The fourth oldest? The fourth youngest?
The fourth oldest.
Fourth oldest.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. She was quiet. She was shy, just like her mom.
Uh-oh.
Anybody catching on?
Yeah, unfortunately I am.
Her friends used to think that she looked afraid a lot when she was turning into a teenager. You know, the puberty stage. She was just a little, But she was beaten as early as 11 years old by...
Fritzl.
Yeah.
Fritzl.
He thought she was a problem child. In 1983, she ran away with a friend, then returned back to him.
Was it more than 5 hours? Did she last longer than Gary
I
Evans?
think she lasted a little bit longer than
I don't think there was
Evans.
Arby's in Austria in 1983. I could be wrong.
I don't know.
that
You
for
think
sure.
there could have been a McDonald's, though?
Maybe.
McDonald's
Probably.
is everywhere. Mom said that Josef
Fritzl.
Fritzl didn't like Elizabeth, and he felt that she apparently felt that kind of irky, weird kind of vibe. Maybe?
Yeah, I can imagine being.
Well,
beaten.
when your husband is telling you that I don't fucking like that kid, and it's your child you have together, I think.
And the only one
you
of
should-
7, maybe.
Right.
Ugh. Not the deal.
I have so many good kids.
You are not one of them.
I'm so disappointed.
He just lost all the Austrian fans.
Yeah, it started going away at school, though. No big deal. But Fritzl found her smoking cigarettes, drinking in bars, and he wanted to pull her out of her misery.
And this is what? How old is she at this point?
She is
Like
good
15 or
question.
16. She was
You're
born in
better at math.
66.
66,
17.
This is 1983.
So she's 17.
17.
Yeah, okay. So he found her smoking cigarettes, drinking in bars. He wanted to pull her out of all the crap that she was apparently doing that was bad. He got her a job as a waitress. He would bring her back home and she'd run away. She'd be like, I don't want to be in this place. Peace out, bitch.
Peace out, bitch.
As one does.
That's great.
I mean, that's how I did it when I ran away, but I don't know about anybody else.
Peace out, bitch.
Peace out, bitch. And then I'd walk back inside because I didn't have any money.
Never
So,
mind. Never mind.
yeah.
I take it back.
That's a JK.
That's the Southeast side life right there. He wanted to keep her away from the outside world, which I'm sure you guys are getting a little bit of that warm, fuzzy feeling because he locks her up in a cell.
Yeah, right. He sounds like a good guy.
I'm going to take it back 1 year before. In 1982, their guest house was burnt down. Suspicious that Josef Fritzl did it, he was released. And at this time, he made his cellar in the bottom of the, like in
the
underneath.
ground. Yeah.
So the guest house.
The guest house burned down, but the cellar remained.
Yeah,
So it just became a dungeon.
No, he burnt down the house, the guest room, and decided to build underneath a
So
cell.
that there was no evidence, there was no plans that there was ever a cellar. So
and
no one
guess
knows.
who helped him? And the only person that didn't know.
Hitler.
No.
Oh.
not
Rosemary.
Hitler. No. Oh, it sounded like you're like my dad right now. That was so gross. Rosemary, stop it. Was that his brother-in-law helped draw the plans out for the cell, and he was like, hey, you know what? I thought that this was just going to be a cell where, he
It
was...
was a wine cellar. We're going to store
No, not even a wine cellar. It
port.
looked so... I mean, if you look at some of these pictures, it's so disgusting. Like, this looked like no wine cellar.
Unless your wine bottles love the prison life.
With rats and
Right. It's a special
rat
kind of wine.
pellets. Yeah. Anyways, This was the time he made the cell. It was approved by the Planning Commission, and in my notes I wrote omission, in 1983. His brother-in-law helped build his cell, like I just mentioned. He didn't know why he was making such an awkward cell because it was not a cellar. It was more like what he thought was a dungeon. In 1984, Elizabeth disappears.
Wow.
What the fuck? He drug her daughter underneath. He knew that he was hurting her. He wrote that his new. Wait, let me take that back. He wrote that he knew that this was bad, but the taste of forbidden fruit was wrong, but it was an addiction.
Okay.
Like he had to. He felt that he had to drag his daughter.
He had to do
into
it.
the cell that only
He
his
had to
brother-in-law
control
knew
her.
about.
You fucking didn't, though, dude.
He only released her to rape her. Other than that, she was chained to a wall.
For, was it 20 years?
24 years.
24 years.
Raped 3,000 times. Josef Fritzl forced her to write a letter that she ran away.
So that was the cover up for anyone else in the world believing what happened because she had run away before. It was believable that she ran away.
in her handwriting.
Yeah. Everything was legit, right? Deciding that she would probably be safe in his captivity. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
I was
Like
letting
he
words
decided
flow.
that she would be safe
Yeah.
in his captivity,
Like, you know.
in his fucked up brain.
Yeah.
She'll be good. I built this cellar till he's strong and sound, and I used 2x6s. Come on.
Yeah, she was surrounded by good people. You know what I mean? Like, which was him, apparently, to himself.
Oh, she believed that she was safe. Not him, right? That's,
Well,
yeah. She was like,
in the letter.
Oh,
In the letter,
I
it was
see,
like,
I see, I
I'm
see, I
surrounded
see.
by good
Don't
people.
look for me.
Don't look for
I got
me.
it.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good.
Don't ever call me.
Peace, bitch.
Peace, bitches.
In 1990 to 1994, he lived in his flat that was right above the cell, Elizabeth's home, we'll call it. Rumor spread that he was. My apologies. Rumor spread that she was a prostitute, so that she was going and whoring around and doing her thing, and that's why, like, she ran away. She wanted to be this rebel without no cause, but like
That
get a
way
couple
people stopped
dollars.
asking questions.
Exactly. And friends didn't believe that she was involved in drugs or prostitution. So Fritzl kept egging the idea that she was in a religious cult now.
Oh, well, yeah. You don't think she's a prostitute? You're right. She's in a religious cult. Fuck you. I just didn't want to tell anybody.
Yeah.
Believe that.
You ain't never heard of Jim Jones, all right?
Believe it.
I know more than everybody else about my daughter. And that's so weird that I know all those things about my daughter. Mm-hmm. And she doesn't write those in letters. So the house with the cellar, tenants weren't allowed to go. So now he's rented out the flat, right? Like, that's above the cellar.
Guest house.
The guest
has
house.
an apartment above the...
So he rents it out to sell.
Why? Just stay there. I mean, like, if you're so committed to, like, having her in a cellar, but you're like, but you know what? I think I've just outgrown this flat. I just
The
gotta
extra
get in.
income, though, is just too...
Yeah, I mean...
It's great. I mean, in the 80s...
What was he doing with all his time? You got to think about what he was really doing with his time. He couldn't be that businessman. Everyone thought
Probably
he
riding
was
his
supposed to be.
bicycle.
Riding around everywhere. God, that guy. So
Fritzl.
nobody could go. None of the tenants were allowed to go near the cellar, the yard, or even the garden. And that's probably because she could have been screaming and someone could have noticed her.
Also, how are all of those tenants like 10-4, buddy, and then never do those things?
Yeah.
Some guy's like, listen, you can rent this spot for me. Here's the deal. You don't fucking touch the grass, the garage door, and you may not be within, let's say, I don't know, like if I were screaming earshot of that.
Oh,
It was really
well,
inexpensive.
it was the eyebrows.
Yeah.
They
got lost in the caterpillar,
It was
bro.
a beautiful flat. I mean, what are you going to do? The open floor plan. I can't go in the cellar. Fuck
Well,
it.
he told people that you'd be evicted if you did. Ooh, those are ultimatum words right there, though.
Those are eyebrow words right
Listen, I am not hiding anything creepy. Just you have to trust me on this.
You respected the Fritzls. Like, what are you supposed to do?
I guess so. In retrospect, I definitely don't, but I can see why maybe then they would.
So they're in the movie, in the documentary, not the movie. The documentary, it was told that the door was open one time. And
To the cellar door?
the cellar door.
Seems careless.
And the tenant. And one of the tenants looked through the door.
Because fucking why not?
an
I would have done that
And
shit day one.
He said he could not go near or in it. He felt the weirdness.
It was too creepy.
It was too creepy.
Yeah.
Too creepy.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I bet it was creepy.
Fritzl would tell the tenants that if they would go near the door or touch it, they would get an electric shock. So that's probably why he was like freaking
So you were
out.
waiting
Like,
for the
is
zap?
this real? Like, I'm not gonna do it. So let's see here. What do my notes say? I don't have my glasses on. No one would ask because they had respect. So they didn't ask. Don't tell, don't ask kind of propaganda over there. And tenants would ask what the knock. Well, I guess that contradicts myself, huh?
Yeah, but that's okay. But that's crazy that like because of the respect, we didn't like ask about if blood curdling screams coming from the cellar. Like,
Right.
we just really respected him and
Just
like
such a good guy.
Like JP said, the fucking view on this place. It's right over the park.
It's such a
and
flat.
Yeah, well, Fritzl would tell them that it was like the gas heater or something or other, and if they heard noises.
The gas
like,
heater
from
sounds
under-
like a screaming 19-year-old.
Yeah, exactly. So here we go. 1993, Lisa, 9 months old, with a letter from Liz. We're calling her Liz now, by the way, guys.
Sweet.
Just, you know.
The daughter now goes by her nickname.
It was
Growing up so fast.
She couldn't take care of her daughter, quote, air quotes, with the unquote. And he decided to put the baby in front of their home with a letter from Elizabeth and saying, like, I can't take care of it. So she was the first of 3 children that Rosemary took care of that were Elizabeth.
Oh, this was the cover was this letter.
The cover was the letter.
Even
like,
though
look, yeah, I ran away. Here, I'm back, but you're not gonna see me. I just need to give you this kid.
Yeah.
And you need to raise it.
Can't
It's
do
mine.
it. I'm in
And
a
there's-
religious cult.
and
I'm a
there's
drug
more.
addict and prostitute. And that was the first of 3
oh,
that the grandma Rosemary took care
The
of.
note just ended one of ...
The letter gave much detail of Lisa's eating habits and what she had been doing to take care of her, etc., etc.
so it seemed very genuine.
a little, I guess.
Like, here's how I've been taking care of baby. Please continue doing these
She has
things.
not been in a cell next door under
Yeah.
the guest house.
Yeah.
Please get her son immediately.
Yeah, and child after child. They were just
3
like
of them.
popping right in front of the
Which, to
house.
be clear, these are Fritzl's
Right.
children with his
Fritzl's rape
daughter.
babies. Yes.
Right.
Yes, rape babies.
Incestual rape babies.
Correct, you are.
And everyone blamed
Oh,
Liz.
man. This is a dark story.
Everyone blamed.
Well, she's a drug addict, prostitute, cultist.
She was a terrible
Yeah.
mother.
Yeah, she's
Now there's another one. There's 4 titles that this poor woman has. And in 1994, another daughter named Monica left on the doorstep. 1996, a 3rd baby named Alexander. So it's Lisa, Monica, and Alexander. Joseph acted like
Joseph.
I apologize, Fritzl. Acted as if he was upset about leaving the kids at the doorstep.
Oh no, babies are showing up from some different country, cult babies that I don't know about.
Everybody knows to respect their Fritzls too.
Right.
So I mean, she was fucking up real bad apparently. So yeah, he would get upset And in 1996, she gave birth to 2 twins, Alexander and Michael. One of them died. Michael and Joseph burned the babies' bodies in the furnace.
Wait, who's Michael?
I apologize. Joseph burned Alexander's body in the furnace.
Because the baby died?
To get rid of the body.
Oh, geez. Before he had a chance to fake a letter that he needs to be adopted by his wife.
Jeez.
Oh, this is getting dark.
Yeah. So he hid the death. So because the baby died at birth, is it considered murder?
Under the circumstances, I'm just going to go with yes.
Yeah.
I
mean, like, granted, it's like his rape baby and everything.
Yeah, legally, I don't know the answer to that question, and I'm so glad that I don't.
Yeah. But he, like, threw the baby in the furnace.
I'm sure it's at least, like, desecration of a corpse and, like, illegal disposal of a dead body, and I don't know what the Austrian laws are, but I'm sure there's at least something that looks down upon his actions.
At the very minimum, it's just super fucked up.
Yeah. Very
I'm
true.
on enough watch lists where I can't look that up for you. So, although I am curious too, I fortunately cannot look that up without having to spend the rest of the night answering questions.
And then all of a sudden he'll lose internet. And
Oh, no.
Not that again.
Well, in 1998, Fritzl went up on a trip to Thailand with his best friend, leaving her is Elizabeth, alone in the cell. Had been in the cell for 15 years at this point and gave birth to 7 times. His friend had suspicions Fritzl was seeing somebody because he was buying women's clothing, but saying that it was not for Rosemary. So it was like, okay, there's a mistress somewhere.
He's really giving him the benefit of the doubt. Like, oh, he must have a mistress. He didn't lock his daughter in a cell into the house. He must just have a mistress. A big deal.
Of course.
He's a good guy.
But I got to know the answer to this question. I think I'm going to check this fucking cellar out.
Fritzl showed a picture of all the kids to his friends. So all his like rape babies, showed all his friends, and said that his best friend said, "Hey, Alex is a splitting image of you." Like, that's so random, you know?
He could be your son.
Your grandfatherly genes have cut through strong.
Yeah. So in 2000, let's see here. In 2008, we're going to jump ahead. There was this carnival going on or whatever, and in Austria, and Preston, who was one of the children that stayed with the mother.
Oh, because they didn't all go.
No.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
So this baby lived in the cellar.
So there's 3 out. 1 died, and 3 others were stuck in the cell with her.
Okay.
So that sucks because these kids were fucking probably seeing their mom get raped by their grandpa / dad. Like,
oh man,
3,000 times.
This is brutal.
Yeah, yeah. So Preston, who is now 19 in 2008,
who's been living in the cell for 19 years,
living in the cell, was terribly ill.
I can imagine.
So Elizabeth tried getting Fritzl to let him out, and he declined. He said, "No, you're not letting this kid out." Was not allowed to go up for treatment, but knew something was wrong.
So he admitted that there was a problem, but he's like, he's going to stay, though. You give him some Robitussin. What's the big deal?
I hope he gave him at least something on that. But the dogs, like from the upstairs flat, would smell, and bark at the ground, and it was kind of like nobody.
They knew people were down there.
Yeah, dogs know.
Dogs know.
Yeah.
Dogs know. And so going into this a little bit more, like the psychoanalysis part of it all was like incest can come from feeling, like a feeling to do that comes from like family belongs to you, like they're yours.
It's a possession.
Possession for sure. Some of them think that they know what's best for you. Like Fritzl probably was like, I know exactly what my daughter needs. Like she's not going to be rebelling against me. Convince yourself that you don't do anything to harm the children, but that you introduce a child into this world as you know what's best for them. Most competent person to deal with what they are going through. So the final straw. Another one of the kids were sick. One of
the Seller kids.
The Seller kids. Fritzl made her write another letter giving Fritzl full guardianship to help the kids, or to help the kid. Child was undernourished and rushed to the ambulance to the hospital. Doctors didn't have any paperwork, and it stirred some questions for the doctors. They're like, "What the fuck? Like this is
2008.
Where did this 19-year-old come from?"
Yeah, right. And Yosef got called up. Fritzl got caught up in a lie in April of 2008. Elizabeth was released. So in that same time frame in 2008, she was released 8,516 days after entering that cell. Like she was in there.
He let her go like free into the world or free back into his
apartment?
So
what had happened was he got all caught up with the hospital.
Oh, right.
So
he got
they
in
went
trouble.
and found her.
Yeah, and they found her.
Oh.
And her and her two more of her kids made it through the door. Social workers came in 21 times during her 24 years and had no suspicions of any wrongdoing.
Wait, they came into Fritzl's home 21 different times?
Probably because he had children that were just dumped on his doorstep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and they wanted to check on.
We gotta make sure. Yeah,
this all checks out.
Yeah,
this looks pretty good.
2009, Fritzl went to court. Rape, incest, false imprisonment, slavery, coercion, deprivation of liberty, and murder of baby Michael.
Murder.
Oh, good. What a piece of shit.
Yeah. So.
Well, unfortunately, they probably needed that murder, because without it, he would have done we got to give him 21 years in jail. And he was an old guy, and that probably means life for him. But without the murder, it's not that serious in the eyes of the law. He would have,
That's a good point, because you asked that earlier about whether or not it was considered murder. They just tacked it on. They knew how much of a giant piece of shit he was,
and
then they made it stick.
This needs to be life.
I imagine imprisonment is probably pretty gnarly.
But I also don't know, in Austria, I know in a lot of European countries or in Australia, nobody goes to prison for life. Everybody is eligible for rehabilitation after a certain amount. It might be 35 or 40 years, but there is no life sentences.
Everybody except for Fritzl.
Yeah. Or if it is a life sentence, it's but they are to be reevaluated in 25 years. And rehabilitation is really big everywhere, except for America, where we just make tons of fucking money off the privatization of prisons. That's another story for another episode.
Wow, that's so he's in jail, obviously. He's been convicted.
Jail.
Is Elizabeth alive still? Is she healthy?
So Elizabeth is alive. She has a new identity. And she was uncovered once, and tabloids found her, paparazzi and everything like that.
Fucking disaster.
Yeah. So she was able to get a new identity after that. And cannot find anything on her. Nothing black.
Quit looking.
I can't stop.
I bet producer Greg could probably find something on the sketchy internet.
Right. Rosemary was left penniless.
I can't.
Another list.
She said she didn't know anything of anything that happened.
Fucking liar.
And was known to not see anything strange that was happening.
Right. We better find her right now to give her most naive woman in the world award.
That got really dark and kept going.
That was heavy, Ro. Is there anything else?
Just believe.
Just believe.
Just believe. Well, Ro.
No,
Wow.
that's it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean,
like
take
to
the
thank
round
all
of
my
applause how you will. That was rough.
That was rough. That was so rough.
We can applaud for Rose storytelling.
Yes, thank you, Ro.
Not for the subject matter.
Yes, exactly.
It's rough.
Well, let's lighten it up here, guys, and finish up with more Gary Evans.
Gary sounds a lot better right now.
So, these guys, they have robbed they've robbed the store. They've got their $15,000, their common burglary tools. They're out of there. They get in a car and they drive away for a minute, and a cop pulls them over.
Oh, goddamn.
And the cop asks them what they were doing behind the building, and they said they had to go to the bathroom. Like, dude, we pulled over to take a piss. Like, fucking, suck it. Cop writes down their names and addresses and lets them go.
Oh.
Yes. So, April 21st, 1985. This is going to be 3 months after this burglary. They act like they're going to do a drug deal with, or this is just Gary. Okay, so Gary flies solo on this. He goes up to do a drug deal with these two guys. The guys go to the trunk, get this huge quantity of marijuana. And Gary's supposed to pay them, so Gary takes it. He pretends to reach into his pocket for cash, and he just takes off running.
Oh, shit.
So Gary bolts with, it says here, $12,000 worth of marijuana. Later, Gary comes back.
Quite the drug deal.
Yes. Gary comes back to the parking lot where the guys were still looking for him and steals their car.
Oh, God. What a cliche.
This was my favorite Gary Evans story of them all. It's so lighthearted. It's like a SNL skit or something. He like stole some cash from them and rolled back and stole their car.
Like Benny Hill.
Yeah. So what do these two guys do? What do you do? Like, I've always thought that. Like, what happened when you get ripped off in a drug deal? You go to the fucking cops and say, like, I was trying to sell him this H-bomb right here, and he stole this 10 grand from me.
I demand justice.
Well, these two gentlemen go to the police and say that Gary Evans robbed them at gunpoint for $12,000. Oh, so it was the other way around. I apologize. I'm very good at notes, you guys. Gary got the money for the fake pot, took off with the pot and the money.
Oh, the pot and the money.
Yeah.
And then came back and
stole the car. So Gary had $12,000 for the pot, $12,000, and a new car.
Shit, he had $24,000?
Straight cash, homie.
half cash, half marijuana. Right?
Half cash, homie. So
what a Hanukkah present he got.
with the $12,000, the marijuana, and the car, he travels from Troy to Cohoes, New York. As he pulls into town, he runs a red light. A cop saw him and turns on his lights to pull him over.
Fucking karma, Gary.
Gary thought he was being pulled over for the burglary and took off, throwing his gun and fake ID out of the vehicle. After a brief chase, Gary finally gives up. Police later retrieved the gun and fake ID. The next day, Gary is moved from Cohoes County Jail to the Albany County Jail, where Jim Horton, a detective and an investigator, could talk to him. Evans confessed to Horton that he and Falco had been tipped off about how to get into the building by the father of someone they knew. He had then signed a statement that he was waiting for sentencing of charges of criminal possession of a weapon, first-degree armed robbery, and grand larceny and burglary of a jewelry store. Detective Horton notices that Cohoes police officers steal $3,000 of the $12,000 that Evans had stole from the two drug dealers. Some cops a little skimmed some off the top, but this special investigator rolls in and is like, the fuck is this?
It's called American Gangster.
Yes. So
he promised there was $12,000 here.
So Evans remains
reputable.
in county jail until his sentencing. In July 1985, Gary Evans was sentenced to another 2 to 4 year period. He was moved from Clinton Correctional Facility. He was moved to Clinton Correctional Facility. Sorry. He was also moved
because of how not good looking he was.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
He was also moved to Rensselaer County Jail in July of 85 and then was soon released. Question number 7.
No shit.
He's about to start killing. How many people will he kill by the time it's said and done? Closest to the answer is going to get 250 points and take the lead. All right, got JP's. Wow, you guys guessed the same thing. And coincidentally enough, You were both wrong. So no one will score any points on that.
At least
one.
we're wrong together.
Yes.
Oh, I think that's love.
So since you're wrong, I'm not going to tell you the answer. Let's just tell you the story.
Exciting.
Oh, man. Yeah. So he does his first murder. It's July of 85, right after he gets out of jail. He kills good friend Michael Falco.
Oh, Falco.
Quick 2, question number 8. What type of weapon does Gary use? This one's multiple choice only. Does he use a .22 caliber pistol, a knife, a shotgun, or a crowbar? What seems Gary Evans to you guys?
Don't look at my answer.
.22 caliber pistol, knife, shotgun, or crowbar? This one's for 250 points on the correct multiple choice option.
I hope I spelled this right because the other day I spelled flies water on my grocery list. So I do have a problem spelling words.
All right, you guys both guessed the same thing again with crowbar. And in July of 1985, Gary Evans uses a .22 caliber pistol
You're so good at this.
with a homemade silencer made of door screen and duct tape to shoot Michael Falco in the back of the head. Right, because a crowbar is a common burglary tool.
It's a common
That's why I put it in there.
Gary Evans tool.
Does the house win anything if I just stump you guys enough times?
I don't know. I feel like if you've been hosting all these shows so far, I'm sure you're on top.
And I've gotten absolutely nothing out of it. So, he shoots his homie in the back of the head with a .22 caliber pistol and a homemade silencer. What? Duct tape and screen door. Greg, I'm assuming you can't Google that for me either.
DIY.
Dude, I've already seen some cars stop out in front of my place through the window, and just hurry up.
Is this why Greg is like 200 or 300 miles away?
Yeah, exactly. He's actually in a remote location. Yeah, we've got him on satellite internet.
That's why it's so shitty and slow. It has to get through all the lead.
Oh my god! And the Faraday. So Michael Falco is killed. It happens in the apartment at the time. Tim Reisdorf was upstairs.
The heist apartment?
Yeah, so it happens in the garage, and Tim Reisdorf is upstairs in the apartment.
Good thing you had the duct tape and screen door.
Right, but it doesn't matter because Gary then goes upstairs and got Tim to help wrap Michael's body in a sleeping bag. They then drove all the way to Lake Worth, Florida in Palm Beach County where Gary's sister Robbie lived. They buried Falco near Robbie's house and stayed in Florida for about 6 weeks. They then went back to New York. The reason Evans shot Falco was because Tim Reisdorf told him that Michael Falco had stolen a piece of jewelry from him. In reality, however, Reisdorf had stolen a necklace and given it to a lady the three men knew well.
Oh, Reisdorf set him up.
After Evans had killed Falco, he found out Tim had lied when he saw the lady they knew wearing the necklace he said that Michael had stolen.
Oh, I think we're coming up on the fate of Reisdorf here pretty soon.
When asked where she had got the necklace, the lady said, quote, "Timmy gave it to me."
Timmy.
So August 1985, a now 30-year-old Gary Evans was arrested and moved to the Sing Sing Correctional Facility in Westchester County, New York in late August. Why? Little burglarizing. At this time, Evans stated, he started writing letters to Detective Jim Horton again. Evans mentioned he heard someone had seen Falco at a concert. So this whole time, they don't know where Falco's at. They know he's missing. They've got him on like some burglary charge, but they suspect him of Falco's death. But the whole time, he's like, no, I know this guy who like saw him at this place. Like, you guys got to follow this lead. He's like playing the good guy. Like, I know you guys think I did this, but I'm going to fucking help you find my friend.
I'm going to prove my own innocence.
Right. So
I'm a good guy.
And he keeps it going, dude. So he was
charming.
Right. So Detective Horton at this time isn't even aware of Evans' murder. No one really is, but he's like saying, or that Evans had murdered Falco. He's Falco or Evans is saying like he's out there somewhere, like he's disappeared already, and you'll hear about it. But like I've got some leads for you when it comes around. So in December of 1985, Gary Evans was transferred to Dannemora prison once more. Around this time, his sister Robbie wrote him. She wrote that someone had called her and disguised themselves as Gary. She said it sounded a lot like him. The person said something about having a fetish with animals and then bragged about having sex with the animals. It angered Gary, and he didn't know what to make of it. It doesn't really have anything to do with the story. I found it interesting, and I found a few different sources that mentioned this, like someone was calling and pretending to be Gary and fuck animals. This is kind of really all there was to it. I just thought I'd add that fun little tidbit in there.
Well, I mean, it's a very Fresno thing to do these days.
In March of 1986, Gary wrote to Robbie that he had a visit from one of the Harrington twins. The Harrington twins were business acquaintances of his, according to Gary. In addition, they had known each other for a long time. They were friends back when Reisdorf and Falco were friends of his as well. But it wasn't really a friendship, more acquaintances. And for some reason, now these guys are visiting him in prison. So his sister's getting really suspicious. Around this time in jail, he started fantasizing about his ex-girlfriend and her family he had not seen in close to 15 years. He planned on finding her and killing anyone who got in his way, including her current husband.
Yeah, I'm sure that dude's ready, knowing who the ex-boyfriend was.
This is or maybe he doesn't know at all. Yeah, that might be something you steer clear of, letting your dude know. That dude is fucking guy. He's like just in prison now or whatever. Like everything's cool though.
I figure you want to give the guy a heads up, like, hey, look, here's the deal.
All right, Ro, tell him now.
Might get real.
In December of 1986, Gary was moved back to Clinton Correctional Facility. He was placed under protective custody by his counselor because he believed some of the Hells Angels were still after him.
Wait, I thought they helped him.
Yeah, but he never repaid them for helping him.
Oh, maybe that's why
He owed a debt to the Hells Angels.
supposed to give them the jewelry, and then he got locked up.
That might be it, too. He wrote to Detective Horton complaining that the police were holding him after his release date. He was supposed to be released in December of 1987, but was informed that he would not be formally released until March of 1988. Evans wrote a letter to Horton and asked him to contact Tori Ellis, who was Falco's common-law wife, to see if she had heard anything about Michael Falco, who he had killed.
Because he's under the impression that they're keeping him here longer because of Falco's...
Right,
He's
so he's trying to
Falco's murder.
track him down. I mean, he's been charged with a burglary that's put him in for 2 to 4 years, but he's like prime suspect number 1 in this missing persons case.
And did you say that guy's name was Horton?
Yes.
Like Horton's who?
Yes.
The Dr. Seuss book?
Correct.
Little fun fact
Little fun thing for you as well. So he wants to know about Falco. He's at least pretending that he's curious. Maybe not that I'm going to find him, but like, hey, like, where is he? Has anybody heard from him? He's playing stupid. Question number 9. In prison, Gary befriends a famous serial killer. No multiple choice, and this one is for 500 points. Who?
Horton's who?
Ooh. So the one hint I will give you is I'll remind you that it is 1987, and they are in New York State. So you let your serial killer knowledge take you where it will. Take your time. What famous serial killer does he become friends with? Okay, JP's got his in. Take your time, Ro. Take your time.
Okay, there was a John Leguizamo film because Adrian Brody was in it. Superman crush on Adrian Brody.
I like how you have the man crush on Adrian Brody, but it's still a John Leguizamo film.
Because he was the main character.
That's the best part.
And I can't remember the name. Oh, no. I can't remember the name of the serial killer. But I remember the title of the movie that was about the serial killer.
Okay, so what was the name of the film?
Summer of Sam.
Is that your final answer?
Yeah.
Ro's going to get 500 points because in prison, Gary befriends David, the son of Sam Berkowitz. I will take that answer. I'm giving you the points for that. That was a good poll.
America. Fuck yeah.
Good poll, Ro. You're going to get 500 100 points.
I think
for
John
that.
Leguizamo should at least get a couple points.
I'm going to give Ro 497 and 3 points to John Leguizamo because I liked how he played Sid the Sloth. So, wow, Ro. Wow. Okay, so it went from a 500 game to now a 1,000 to 500 game.
Are you looking at what my answer was?
No,
Oh, sorry.
JP
JP answered the Central Park Strangler, which is a great guess, but not...
Wow. I'm not even mad. That's amazing.
amazing.
You pulled that one out of a hat.
I think
The
I pulled it
refrigerator
from
and ate
Seinfeld.
The whole wheel of cheese. So, Berkowitz was known, obviously, for killing young, innocent girls. You remember The Summer of Sam, which is a Spike Lee joint, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Berkowitz.
Leguizamo.
Yes. He would often refer to Gary as the Great Tricep King. Berkowitz angered Gary because he sent him a fitness magazine with an African American in one of the articles. Now remember, Gary is such a fucking white supremacist asshole piece of shit that there was a black guy in an article that he read that David Berkowitz sent him, and he took that shit up with David Berkowitz. You fucking send this magazine to me. So, again, piece of shit. So anyway, Berkowitz apologized and said he forgot how prejudiced Gary really was.
I think if you can get David Berkowitz to apologize to you for doing nothing wrong.
I think David Berkowitz was actually a huge bitch.
Yeah.
I think that was his deal.
He liked listening to the dog that was in like the yard.
Yeah, the dog spoke to him and told him
What to do.
His neighbor's dog.
The dog was actually the son of Sam, right?
Yeah, exactly. Sam Hain. So when they were lifting weights one day, David Berkowitz got especially mad at Gary because he called him David Berserkowitz.
What a dick.
Dang, burn.
So
Heavy burn.
Gary and David have an on and off relationship through prison, so Gary was hooked up, I guess. In December of 87, Gary went into a child molester's cell and, quote, body slammed him all over, causing multiple broken bones and internal injuries to the child molester. He was then placed in solitary confinement for 15 days, and his punishment was considered to be lenient because, child molester. On March 1st, 1988, a now 33-year-old Gary Evans was paroled and let out of jail once more. This time he had worked out and built a lot of muscle, so he's looking extra fit and extra big. Him and Berserkowitz handling shit.
He doesn't want to get transferred out of another prison for not being good looking enough.
Yep, he's got to start getting it together. 33, he starts falling apart a little.
He got a complex.
When he got out, he became friends with Damien Cuomo and started committing numerous burglaries with Damien. Around this time, he worked for a nursery and a local depot. While working at these places, he was still committing burglaries on the side. During this time, he was committing more crimes than he ever had before by his own admission.
Side burglaries.
Yep, just getting a little side fix. I got the nursery job and the hardware store, but I'm still fucking with burglary a little.
Side burgle.
So March 1989, Evans and Cuomo were pulled over and asked to step out of the vehicle in which they were driving. The trunk was searched, and the cops found all of the items they needed to commit a burglary and or kidnapping, including 3 ski masks, 2 stun guns, a police scanner, 2 walkie-talkies, a Slim Jim, crowbar, screwdrivers, duct tape, rope, 2 sets of handcuffs, gloves, hats, several maps of the Northeast, and a book on police radio frequencies.
Of course they did.
I think it explains your question earlier as to what is inside a common burglary
I
kit,
love that
though.
we got the exact definition
Of course.
a common burglary
After
kit.
all these burglaries, he does. Of course he does leave. Oh, God. Just ride a bike.
Right.
Ride a bike with everything over and just, layer some clothes on like Fritzl did.
Learn from Fritzl.
It sounds like he's got his kit really dialed, though.
Yeah.
He has an awesome kit. I'm not going to lie. But you do this how many times and you still get fucking stunned by the police?
There's like a Ted Bundy quote where he talks about the first time you commit murder, it's perfect and you have everything planned out perfectly. But by like your 9th or 10th murder, you forget where you put the crowbar down. It just becomes so like...
It's all so much to remember. And
yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
You got to tag everything,
Yeah.
like...
You have an inventory at
Post-its.
in and out.
Post-its
of your
on
garage.
everything.
Yeah.
So the cops did not do a very thorough search of the vehicle, though, even though
all that stuff.
because there was stolen merchandise in the door panels and under the carpet in the trunk. So all they really found was just the kit to do all that shit. You can't arrest somebody for having a kit that looks like they're going to burglarize.
They were fucking batshit scared that they found all this. Oh, what are you gonna fucking do?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your side panels and see that you stole.
That's
shit.
for Halloween, sir. The two men were actually booked at the Albany Thruway State Police Barracks. Evans and Cuomo would often wear shoes that were 3 or 4 sizes too big when committing the crimes in order to throw off police. So that they found that out by finding their size 14 shoes in the car that night with them.
That's great. Giant foot. It couldn't have been us. Those footprints are giant.
On September 8th, 1989, Gary Evans kills Douglas J. Berry, who was 63. Douglas Berry was the owner of an antique store and was sleeping in the store after hours. Damian Cuomo and Evans robbed him in the middle of the night, and in the middle of the robbery, Berry woke up. Evans shot him once in the head with a .22 caliber Ruger with a silencer on it. Evans leaves a gun shell on the floor, and the body was left at the scene and was not even attempted to be hidden. Gary Evans kept an eye in the news in Watertown, New York, about Douglas Berry's murder, and a man was eventually arrested for it but was soon released because there was not enough evidence. So,
well, that's good. At least some other dude didn't go down.
Mm-hmm.
But
also some other dude went down. You know what I mean?
Right. But at least two other. At least another dude didn't go down.
So 3.5 months later, on December 26, 1989, Gary Evans kills partner Damian Cuomo, who at the time was 28 years old.
I'm starting to get the feeling that he's not such a great guy to
partner
be in
to
business
have.
with.
this is like
It's like the Joker.
terrible.
It's like the beginning of the Dark Knight.
Killer.
Yeah. So, Damian Cuomo was shot 3 times in the back of the head after he was handcuffed with his hands behind his back. The shooting was also done with a .22 caliber gun. He then wrapped him up in a shower curtain, a blanket, and a rope, and Damian Cuomo's body was left at the scene and hidden in a hole Evans had dug a few weeks before. The hole had a wooden makeshift door on it, and he covered Damian with topsoil. He then covered the door with topsoil and some brush. He decided to kill Cuomo because he supposedly ripped Evans off an earlier job. Evans only got about $15,000 of one of the jobs that he believed he should have got something closer to $20,000 for.
Right.
So kill him.
Kill him. Well, he already had the hole.
Yeah, so might as well.
Right.
Soon after killing Damian Cuomo, Gary went to Florida with his girlfriend at that time. She lived just down the street from Lisa and Damian. He also brought her so it would not be apparent that he was trying to hide something while going to Florida. He's on vacation. I'm not trying to hide a murder. I'm here with my babe. Hide a murder. They're like, sir, we asked how you like your eggs. In the summer of 1990, Evans goes to California to see Stacy, a former ex-girlfriend with whom he was obsessed. He had not seen her for about 15 years, but this is the girl he was talking about in prison. He planned to take out anyone in the way of him, even her husband. He said he was going to, quote, make her love him. He said that if he had to, he would kill her husband. When Evans gets to California, he shows up at her work and later has an argument with her husband. She makes it clear that she does not want to have anything to do with him. He gets the point, and without murdering anyone, goes back to New York. But 2 months later, on October 17th, 1991, he's going to kill Gregory Joubin, a jewelry shop owner who was 36 years old. Gary Evans shot him 3 times in the back of the head with a .22 caliber pistol while he was looking at a piece of jewelry.
Weapon of choice, huh?
Right?
Most likely with a homemade silencer.
Maybe
Of a
that's
screen
all
door.
he had.
And duct tape. For this murder, he put a pillowcase around his gun to catch all of the shells so they didn't hit the ground this time. He learned his lesson. But he forgot that he had left other things behind where he had been staking them out in an empty office building above his store. Evans stole over $60,000 from Joubin after he shot him.
Well, I mean, it's right there.
Yeah. The next day, October 18th, 1991, Gary left for Colorado. October 20th, he returns only 2 days later from Colorado and goes to Latham. He puts the gun that killed Jubin with another gun he was carrying in a metal box. He buries the box in the back of an Albany rural cemetery in Medlands.
He gave the weapons a proper burial.
Right, just in case. He also steals a marble bench from the cemetery that weighed about 1,000 pounds and brought it straight to New York, where he promptly sold it.
It's very opportunistic.
Yeah. And also is like, kind of like you said, very rickety cricket. You can just like see him loading up a 1,000 pound bench and selling it. Hey, guys, want a new bench? Or in March of 93, so we're jumping forward 2 years here. An antique shop owner, Kathy Alexander, found that several of her expensive items were missing, including priceless diamonds, some gold and rare handbag from special collections. It is estimated to be around $20,000. Gary broke in through the bathroom window and had taken it all. The woman found out 2 years later that it was Gary, but she never suspected it was him. She knew him. So something I should say is he is robbing these antique stores, but only because he knows what the fuck he's looking for. Gary, very into antiquities. He loved to go out and antique. He liked fine jewelry. He was very knowledgeable in it. So when he crashed the fucking roof of a jewelry store, he knew exactly what he was looking for that was going to fetch the most money. So she knew of him because of his prowess in the antique scene. She just didn't suspect that he would be the one crashing through the bathroom window and stealing all her shit.
Right. Well, he had such a nice lawn.
Right. And is this, such a good guy. And he's so buff now after the last time he was in prison.
He's better looking now. His lawn is
I doubt
beautiful.
So January 10th, 1994, he's now 39 years old. Evans had been arrested for stealing a marble bench from a cemetery. Evans was placed in a cell next to Jeffrey Williams in the Albany County Jail. Jeffrey Williams is another killer, and the detectives Horton and Wingate placed Evans beside Williams to see if Evans could get any information out of Williams. He does not. Evans ain't no narc. February 12th, 1994, Evans was released from Albany County Jail. And on March 20th, 1994, what will he steal to set off the events of getting him locked up for good? Will it be A, a car, B, a cash register, C, a candy bar, or D, a library book? Car, cash register, candy bar, library book. This one's for 250 points. JP looking to get back in it.
I need one. I need a victory here. I should have waited and stole her answer.
Where we at? Okay. Rose says cash register. JP said the library book. So in March of 1994, Evans went to the Norman Williams Public Library in Woodstock, Vermont, when it was closed, and stole
the cash register.
The Birds of America book by James Audubon.
All
It
right.
was a library book. Congratulations, JP. 250 points coming at your way.
Back in the game.
We have got a score now of 750 to 1,000.
Fritzl.
With 2 questions remaining.
All right.
It is getting down to the nitty gritty, y'all. So it's coming down now because a federal judge was on the board of trustees for this very library.
Of course.
Burn.
In the middle of June 1994, Evans meets with Detective Horton and Wingate and turns himself in for stealing the Birds of America book. Horton talks to the federal judge after the FBI tried to get the book back from Evans. Horton was able to bring the judge down to a 27-month sentence instead of the 25 to life that he was supposed to get.
For the book?
I believe it's a federal crime. Yeah. I think that's
It's a really good book.
yeah. Evans agreed to return the book for the lesser sentence.
I guess you could have the book back.
June, I fucking love these birds.
I guess.
June 9th,
He took photocopies
1995.
prior.
Just Xeroxed the whole thing. Evans was formally sentenced to 27 months for stealing the book. He waited about a year just to get the sentence. He was being held in federal prison in Vermont. On June 6, 1996, he was released from prison, so time served. October 3rd, 1997, he kills Tim Reisdorf, who was 39 at the time. He shot Tim Reisdorf 3 times in the back of the head with a .22 caliber handgun. Now, I should say that the only documentary I could find about Gary was essentially starting out as a sad story. The narrative was about how Tim Reisdorf had become a pretty good family man, and his wife had noticed that he'd been kind of distracted over the last few weeks, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he just goes missing. And the last thing she heard of him was that she got a call from him about 1 a.m. saying that Tim had met up with an old friend and he was just giving him a hand and he'd be home soon. And he never came home again. So, yeah. Gary Evans, not a good guy to be friends with, it doesn't seem like. No. Because Tim Reisdorf has been killed. He then... they're in a storage room. They've kind of made storage. They got a storage locker as the base of operations.
A heist locker.
A heist locker now. So he kills him inside this locker after they've taken a haul because he thinks now that Tim is a family man and he's kind of gotten a little soft on him. He doesn't think he's going to be able to keep the information in him. So he kills him.
Tim stole the necklace.
Years ago.
Years
correct.
ago.
That is true as well. He then takes a chainsaw and cuts up Tim's body and bags it into 5 different bags, and then takes the 5 pieces and puts them into larger boxes, tapes the boxes, and then places them into another box and tapes those closed. He rationalizes acts because he had to transport the body to the burial site on a steep hill in Brunswick, New York. Reisdorf was buried in a shallow grave. Evans tosses the gun on his way out of the storage facility. He tossed it over a fence and in a ditch that runs along the interstate. Evans said he tossed the chainsaw into the Hudson River and it was never found. After the murder, Evans jumps probation. Nobody was able to track him down for about 7 months, and the police finally tracked him down, and he was arrested in Jonesbury, Vermont. On October 4th, 1997, at 42 years old, Evans calls Lisa Morris and asks where Tim Reisdorf is, and she does not know. So now he's calling and taunting his fucking wife. Like, where's he at? Like,
is he doing the same, like, covering the tracks as he was with his other partner that he also murdered with a .22?
He's saying, like, dude, I got out of prison. And I'm like, I'm looking for Tim and I can't find him. Where's he at?
That's very Fritzl of them. I mean,
how Fritzl. He says that Tim might have just taken off, kind of like Mike did. He was referring, of course, to Michael Falco.
All my friends, they leave.
On May 27th, 1998, Evans was captured without incident at Jonesbury, Vermont. He was suspected on pretty much all of these. Without being pressed too much, he confesses to killing 5 people.
Oh, shit.
June 3rd, 1998, he was moved from Vermont jail to Albany County Jail as a federal prisoner. He spent most of his time in Albany in protective lockdown. On June 19th, 1998, he admitted to killing Tim Reisdorf. Evans was taken to Brunswick so he could show everybody where the body was buried in 2 shallow graves. On June 24th, 1998, he starts to give details about the killings of the 2 jewelry shop owners, Douglas Berry and Gregory Joubin. Later that day, he admitted to killing Damian Cuomo in detail. Evans later led investigators to where he had buried Cuomo in the woods, and the body was also in a shallow grave covered with topsoil. Jim Horton makes Evans call Lisa Morris at this point. So they go to the police station, and he's saying, like, how do you feel? We just found your friend that you've been telling us might be missing. And Evans is feeling guilt, and he says, good, call Lisa Morris and tell her. So he makes Gary Evans, the friend who's calling and saying, like, where's Cuomo? Like, I don't know where this guy's at. Help me out, and tell her, I killed him. That's why you can't find him. I killed him. And he does it. He agrees and says that it would be best. And then he does that. Horton says that he wanted Evans to hear hear her and her reaction to what she would be like when she heard that he had killed her boyfriend. And he wanted him to apologize for leading her on all those years. Evans, of course, had led Lisa to believe that Cuomo was still alive, and he had just left her and his daughter behind. Also, there are some accounts that say he did, and some accounts say he didn't. Seems like he may have swooped in and been a little more than a supportive friend to talk to for these years while Cuomo was gone. He may have just kind of replaced him. That's one way to do it, I suppose. Evans also admitted in detail to killing Michael Falco on this day and told Horton he was buried near his sister's house in Lake Worth, Florida. He was not transported to Florida to show them where he had placed the body because he was considered to be too high of an escape risk. On June 29th, 1998, he was transported from Albany County Jail in Colony to the Rensselaer County Jail in Troy. They transported him to a different jail because the jail was under construction, and people noticed he was glaring at certain sections. They were concerned that he might have been looking for a way out. On July 14th of 98, Troop G released a report saying that they had found and positively identified Michael Cuomo's body in Florida. Troop G was the investigative team looking into Michael Cuomo's murder. Dental records were used to identify the body. In August of 1998, Evans admits to Horton that he is planning an escape from prison. August 11th of 98,
he admits to the federal investigator
that I'm fucking getting out of here,
hey,
bro.
I just want to let you know.
Yep.
I will be escaping.
Yep.
Again.
So on August 11th, he admits to Joe Rame, his cellmate, that he is going to escape. He includes all of the details. And on October 12th, 1998, he's going to court. He is not getting out. He will be charged with how many of the 5 murders he is accused of. This one's for 250 points. JP, you can tie it back up right here. The answer is somewhere between 1 and 5. JP's got his answer in. If you answer more than that, I'll tell you now that you will be wrong.
I was thinking about that, actually. I was like, is this a fucking trick question?
This one's as straightforward as it gets. You guys are just like 2 little peas in a pod as you both answered 4. But remember, he admitted all of them, and he will be charged with all 5 of the murders.
I was trying to remember if he had admitted to all 5.
He is formally charged with 5 counts of murder, and the DA's office said that it would decide over the next 120 days whether to try him as a capital offender and have him face death by lethal injection. On August 14th, 1998, at the age of 43, Evans had a parole hearing in the morning at the Albany County Jail in Colony, New York. He was being transported in a police van, and he kicked out the window and jumped from the van. It was crossing the Troy Menands Bridge on the outskirts of Troy, New York at about 11 a.m. The authorities said the 2 deputy marshals riding in the front and 2 other deputies following in a second van immediately jumped out of their vehicles and tried to grab Mr. Evans. The last question, and as I'm looking at it here, JP, you cannot win it. Congratulations, Ro. You have won the Serial Chillers podcast. We're still going to run question number 12 here for fun. Once he is out of the vehicle, what happens? Is it A, suicide by cop? B, he runs into traffic? C, he is safely returned to the vehicle? Or D, he jumps off the bridge?
Did you say suicide by cop?
You know, like he runs at them and like gets them to kill him. Yeah.
I'm going to guess anyway.
Well, bottom there?
Yeah.
Okay.
This one here at the bottom.
All right.
I'm going to pick the last one.
You think
suicide.
he jumped off a bridge?
Yeah.
So Rose says jumped off a bridge. JP said safely returned to the vehicle. Right? Is that it?
Safely returned to the vehicle.
Before the officers could reach him, he had leapt over the bridge's railing, landing on the rocks at the river's edge where the water is only 1 foot deep and the drop is somewhere between 65 and 80 feet. The 4 deputies scrambled down to the banks and found the body of Gary Evans, who apparently had been killed instantly.
He jumped 60 feet into 1 foot of water?
Of rocky water of the Hudson.
Just smart.
Yeah. So while the escape was being investigated by federal marshals and the New York State Police, there was, quote, not much to investigate. Gary Evans, who escaped over the wall of the Rensselaer County Jail in 1980, was exceptionally strong and extremely determined. He also left a note that he wanted to be released to television and the newspapers. Jim Horton also received a note saying simply, "I win." An autopsy found a razor blade and a paper clip taped to the ankle under his sock, a handcuff key stuffed so far up his left nasal passage that they're almost positive he would not have been able to get it out on his own, and razor blades stuffed very deep inside of his sinus.
Oh.
The authorities failed miserably when it came to scanning Evans with metal detectors.
Yeah, I guess so.
That's all. That's Gary Evans for you. Like I said, pretty non-traditional serial killer through the most of it. Kind of just killed some friends that he didn't think would do it, but I mean, 5 victims in the end. Not a good guy. Congratulations, Ro. You came in and you handled business. 1,250 to 750. Congrats. Greg, would you like to add anything before we head out here?
I have a lot to add. Again, lists and such. But I think for now I'm just gonna let it go.
Perfect.
Fritzl.
Anything you guys would like to add to the end?
Nah, this was pretty epic.
Yeah, I think just thanks for having us on the show, and I truly believe you need to do a whole show on this fabulous studio that you've built for yourself.
Well, the pleasure was all yours. And
no doubt.
Thank you guys so much for listening to episode 29 of the Serial Chillers podcast.
Woo.
All right, that was episode 29. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there. Gary Evans was a career criminal who stayed true to that until his dying day. He left the world the way that he lived in it. Absolutely crazy. So that was Gary Evans. Thanks again for sticking through that. And thank you again to Ro for bringing that crazy, fucked up Joseph Fritzl story. It was very well put together. Thank you again for that. And congratulations on your win. JP, thanks again for coming, and better luck next time, I suppose. If you guys have any suggestions for future episodes, if you guys have anything about this episode you'd like to add, anything I missed, anything that is totally off base, let me know. Reach out to me in the many ways that have been made possible. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. The Facebook and IG are both Serial Chillers Podcast. Twitter is @ChillersPodcast. You can email me at serialchillerspodcast@gmail.com. Call or text the phone number 1-805-666-2513. And we've got the merch store set up over at serialchillerspodcast.threadless.com. And of course, we've got the Patreon page. If you're willing to give as little as $1 a month to the show, get you a shout out on an episode. We send you over a little sticker pack. We're working on some new things to send out to some new people here. So research from everything on this episode came from an incredibly well put together Radford University timeline. I use these on almost every episode, and they're normally very informative. This one was incredibly informative, so thank you to Christopher Birch, Ashley Campbell, Brittany Carroll, and Heather Harmon for that. Good old Wikipedia also played a part, and the documentary Friendly Fire. So the music on the episode today was by myself or producer Greg. Thank you, GarageBand. And thank you guys all so much for listening to episode 29. Remember, again, we're going to take a little break after episode 30 to celebrate the holidays, and we'll be back in the middle of January. And if you can, please rate and review if you're an iTunes user, and don't forget to share the show with a friend. Lastly, remember, don't talk to strangers.